at all the different panhandle federal legislations. What you don't know is that last week, the Department of the Secretary of Defense provided a memo that said those on the military base must decide this week to get the first of 2 shots in order to be compliant and not be forced off the base on 22 November. I've seen that email. Friends have gotten that email. Last week's memo. That's right, last week's memo. Shot this week. That's very little time to seek legal counsel. That's very little time to seek a religious or a medical waiver. It's not surprising that the Secretary of Defense issued a short-fused ultimatum, especially when you consider all the number of lawsuits and things that are coming in his name right now.
Yes.
Tonight, amen. Tonight we discuss science, mandates. Our eyes have been opened. Thank you guys, and I appreciate your courage. I respect you guys. Thank you very much. And Dr. B, especially, for making this happen. We have to ask ourselves why. And we got to dig deeper, and that's exactly what this crowd is doing tonight. To get to the heart of the matter, we all need to recognize that medical freedom and religious freedom are not independent of one another, but rather intertwined. The very principle of informed consent merges these 2 planes, and from that intersection there can be no separation. When choice over one's health care is infringed upon as if the patient Bill of Rights never existed, we transcend mere medical choice, crossing the line of constantly guaranteed religious freedom and the right to practice that religion. Case in point, my faith says that my body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. How I care for myself is deeply personal and faith-based, as it is for many here and all across the country. Here's the bottom line, guys. The personal decision to take this vaccine or not take the vaccine should be our choice, your choice.
Yes.
We'll make a better choice. But it's our choice. The federal government's oppressive mandates forcing everyone to take this vaccine, regardless of deeply held faith or personal conviction, is to flirt dangerously with the culture-destroying mistress of tyranny itself. It's not the disease, but the government's overreach that is the problem.
Yes.
It's that which threatens our way of life and our children's future. My friends, we stopped flirting many months ago. When we had the first mandate to stay home for 2 weeks and flatten the curve, this rally should have happened back then.
Yes.
We're now in a full-on illicit relationship with freedom-starving tyranny our forefathers stood against, and an enemy I swore an oath to defend when I put on the uniform. And Dr. B put on the uniform, and many of you put on the uniform. And don't think it doesn't apply to the rest of you, because it applies to every single American citizen. You may never have said the oath, but if you're naturalized, who's naturalized here today? Stand up. Stand up. Did you take the same oath I did to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic? Thank you for standing with me. We all took that oath because we're here. My oath did not become void when I took my uniform off, and that's why I'm here tonight, boldly and unvaccinated, at the peril of my own employment. I know that many of you agree with me, and so do many on our bases, even from the shadows, for fear of retribution, as we've seen with Marine Lieutenant Colonel Scheller, for speaking out against leadership demanding accountability after we lost 11 Marines, a soldier, and a corpsman on the 26th of August. We've lost lots of loved ones, brothers and sisters. We've lost great Americans in uniform. I feel as though every one of us remembers August 26th this year when that happened. It was just such a moment, and it didn't need to happen. Thank you for standing with us. But let me also encourage you that there are 1,000 across the country who stand with us tonight. And we've seen it with my friends at Southwest Airlines that are doing that. And they deserve one more round of applause.
Yes!
Dr. Biglione did not share that Meg and I had beat COVID back in August, but we had actually become her patients, went to her clinic. I'd actually gotten the ivermectin previously before I got into her office. I'll call it a shop because it seems like a shop. It's like a mechanic shop. Everybody's chilled out. There's no pictures on the wall. Only 2 weeks ago, I listened to a national news radio, so I won't say what it was, just because it's people's livelihoods. But the interviewer asked a quote-unquote real doctor, and this is what was asked. Do you believe your colleagues who prescribe this medicine have been and should be, continue to be, relieved of their license to practice medicine? And this real doctor said yes. More of the same is shared by the mainstream media, as we've learned tonight. The doctor who prescribed my ivermectin that I took does not share my Christian beliefs. She's Buddhist, fled Vietnam and communism to seek a better life. So no, we may not share the same faith, but we both believe in the sanctity of human life. And we hold the same conviction that we're on a deadly path to the very same communism and socialism that destroyed her home country. We agree that we must stand up now before it's too late for this constitutional republic we both love and wish to remain free. On September 10th, I celebrated 20 years cancer-free. And my wife. I stand before you as the poster boy for both the Patient's Bill of Rights and informed consent. When I was told by my military doctors that I had a rare bone cancer and that no other person had ever beat it, there were only 50 others on studies that they could find or produce, I asked for a second opinion. I went to civilian doctors. The civilian doctors agreed I had the same prognosis as the military doctors. Only they wanted to do double chemo instead of the radiation surgery that the military doctors. And when they started guessing, I had the right to refuse.
Amen.
And we stepped away, stepped out on faith. God opened doors, and 11 months later, with no chemo, radiation, or surgery, but raw diet, detox, God opened the way to healing, provided miracles for him. And my wife and I boldly stepped out on faith. Do you see there's a connection between my faith and my belief and my approach to healthcare?
Yes.
They're not separate. And that's what I wanted to drive home tonight. I spent a month in Switzerland doing therapies that aren't allowed here in the United States. Came back cancer-free, and Meg and I have been advocates for cancer warriors now for 21 years. Initially, we stood alone. Well, we had God and we had family, and that was enough. A lot of people are facing a situation trying to decide whether to take a shot or not, feeling like they're alone, and they're not. When we went through the disease, what we did is we rallied and we found a support network, conventional and alternative doctors that were open-minded, faith-based, and God provided a way. I wrote a book this year that basically details that, gives God the glory, gives my wife the greatest of thanks because I'm not here without her. That's the truth. That's good. We'll take that. Go Megan. But we had one other thing that's really rare today. I had an OIC, I had a unit commander, I had a commanding general from my F-18 community that supported me in my decision to fight cancer the way that I did. I think we would be hard-pressed in today's culture climate of heavy-handed military pushing down on those of us that have to take the shot to be able to write a book today that says, thank you to you, and thank you to you, and thank you to you. It's as if they're out there and all alone. Today I watch my military brothers and sisters struggle for their rights. I think, and I know that military members and non-military personnel who had objections and willing to receive the vaccine are struggling. I'm not here to advocate for the decision of how they chose. I'm advocating for their freedom to make the choice. Tonight I take a stand for thousands of military members and civilians around the country and around the globe who have a very real case for religious exemption and medical exemption from this vaccine. For many militaries serving tirelessly to defend our nation, their argument falls on deaf ears because military members have always been required to take a shot. So what makes this COVID vaccine every different? Well, at least this audience knows, because you listened, it is not like every other vaccine, and from a legal standpoint, it's not FDA approved.
Right.
So there it is right there.
Yes.
So this is completely unlawful. Stepping away from the legal argument, as there are many lawyers stepping into the fight, thank you for that. We're so appreciative. I'll be getting your number. There you go. For decades, military have been offered the ability to seek religious exemptions by going to their chaplain and requesting one via an interview. Where's the chaplain's parents out here that I talked to earlier? Where are you? There's a please stand up. Their son's a chaplain. Please stay up. Don't sit down. Please, I know he wanted to be here tonight, as I wanted to advocate for him, and I want you to please give him this message, that we say thank you for what they're doing. And I want to explain kind of how it's working, because it's important for you to know, because there's an action item in the next 2 minutes, okay? You may be seated, thank you. In today's heavy-handed climate of high-level military and DOT leadership pushing down to the commanders not to approve religious exemptions. In fact, if the service member had any time prior to their religious request voiced a medical or political concern about vaccines, their sincerity, a word you probably throw around the kitchen table, their sincerity is immediately questioned and their request is denied. And for the rare few who do receive approval, the commands are immediately initiating administrative separation all across the country. That's what our military is facing right now. I argue that my choices for fighting a terminal cancer only for 2 years to live was deep faith-based. Okay? I've been here before, and I know our military members are in a tough spot. If they mention they do not believe in the vaccine because it's not FDA approved, they're denied. If they say they had COVID and have natural antibodies like our son did, he is denied. I hope tonight's presentations will truly raise awareness and fire you up to take action, demanding the DOD rescind this unlawful mandate on military and DOD civilians alike. We must take a stand not only for the military, but for your neighbors, your fellow Americans, many of whom suffer in silence, convinced they have no choice over what goes in their bodies. Many have already conceded and have taken the shot, and as did our son. My son saw the fruitless efforts of fellow Marines seeking a religious exemption and therefore did not even pursue it. And these are words from a fellow chaplain. To him, as to so many others struggling with this difficult addiction, visiting their chaplain was nothing more than a meaningless stop on the road to no. That means some of us are struggling and not even going to the chaplain because they know when they get there, even if they get a yes from the chaplain, it's a no and they're administratively pushed out. That's an administrative, if not a political tool. Our chaplains need to be chaplains. We need to be able to approach them, go to them, and trust that they will help us, not just be part of the exit process.
Amen.
One last thing that I would say as we prepare to wrap this up. Your military pilots, as with anybody in a high-stress environment, who have already taken the vaccine in spite of deeply held moral and medical reservations, they're facing a confidence killer, something we don't need in the cockpit or in our line of work. They know they have to compromise their beliefs to remain in uniform, to serve you and defend you. This silent struggle must end, and we must push back and stand up for those